Okay, so maybe is it okay that we will wait for 3 minutes more? 3:05, maybe we can start.
Okay, so that would be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I think the most of the student maybe is already in the Zoom meeting, so it's already 40 something. While we are waiting for the other students, maybe we can uh start the course, Dr. Clarissa. Is it okay?
Yes, please. We can
Okay.
start. Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah. So maybe, yeah, maybe before its opening, maybe I will say thank you, Dr. Clarissa, Dr. Angeli, and also Dr. Lisbeth, also here, right? Yeah. So thank you for the time, and we continue again the connecting classroom. Yeah, for this session, there will be like two courses: cognitive ergonomics and also human factor in industrial and system design. System industry. Yeah, so uh, we can start for the class. So I will give the time for the MC here, Ermi, to start this lecture. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Retno. Okay, guys. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our connecting class on
Recording
cognitive
in progress.
ergonomics and human factors in industrial system. A joint collaboration between the Industrial and System Engineering Department, Institut Teknologi 10 November Surabaya, and the Industrial Engineering Department of UPLB. Before we begin, I would like to kindly remind you all, everyone, to rename your Zoom display name according to our group format. I will share you in the chat. Okay, this will help us to recognize participants easily during the session. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Before we begin our class, I would like to extend a warm greeting and our highest respect to Mrs. Retno
Recording
Widyaningru,
stopped.
the course lectures of Cognitive Ergonomics and Human Factors here at ITS. We are also very pleased to have Dr. Clarissa and Dr. Angeli uh, for joining us today. Thank you very much for being with us, Doctor. Before we start, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ermi Kusarawati, the assistant laboratory, and I'll be your host and MC for this session. It's truly a pleasure to be with you all of this afternoon. Before we move on the main session, we will have a photo session together. So may I kindly ask everyone to please turn on your camera for a moment. We'll take a quick group photo to mark today's connecting class. And I will to screenshot. Please open your camera, everyone. Okay, get your best pose ready. I will take a screenshot for today. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next session is today we are truly honored to have Dr. Clarissa with us from Department of Industrial Engineering College of Engineering and Agro-Industrial Technology, UPLB. Good afternoon, Dr. Clarissa. How are you today?
Oh, hello, good afternoon. So I am fine, a little bit nervous, but I hope I can deliver.
Okay, we hope everything is going well on your side. We truly delighted and grateful that you could join us and share your valuable insight with our student here at ITS and UBLB. And before we continue, please excuse me if my voice sounds is bit unclear today, and I'm recovering from a bit of flu. The weather here in Indonesia, yeah, especially in Surabaya, has been quite rainy lately. Okay, for today connecting class, Dr. Clarissa will present a talk titled Exploring Usability Principle, Techniques, and Practical Application. In this session, we'll explore how usability principles can be implemented to enhance human system interaction, improve safety, efficiency, and support better decision making in industrial environment. The topic is especially relevant to
Recording
all
in
of
progress.
us studying cognitive economics and human factors, as usability plays a vital role in designing systems that are safe, efficient, and user friendly. Without further ado, let's give our warmth to virtual welcome to Dr. Clarissa. And Dr. Clarissa, the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your warm introductions despite the cold in Surabaya, Dr. Ermi. Okay, so I would like to share my screen first. Okay, so hello everyone and good afternoon. So it's such a privilege to connect our faculty and students through this Connecting Classroom program. And this program is a great opportunity to share insights and for us to learn together. So I would like to briefly introduce myself. So I am Clarissa
Recording
Bisgan,
stopped.
a faculty member under Human Factors and Ergonomics Research Group of the Department of Industrial Engineering of UPLB. So, welcome everyone and nice to meet everyone.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so in today's session, we will explore usability, encompassing its concepts, methodologies, and applications. And by the end of this session, I hope that our audience would be able to explain what usability is, be able to organize a usability testing methodology, and evaluate a product or system designs using the Jacob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics. So let's start. And first thing first, I want us to have a sharing of experiences and sharing of thoughts. So I hope that you would be able to participate in this activity as well as the other activities that I would be sharing. Okay? So for a start, what I want you to do is to look around you or think and find an object, website, app, or physical interface in your environment that has a poorly designed or inconvenient feature. And how did you feel upon using that particular website, app, or product? So again, remember a time when you have interacted with an object, website, app, or physical interface in your environment that has a poorly designed or inconvenient feature, and share your experience, share how you felt upon using that particular product. Would anyone like to share their experience? Yes, Miss Joshel?
Good afternoon, ma'am. So for me, I had experienced a website that for me the design was quite poor, inconvenient. It was when I was taking a certification, and the website had a certain feature that you can really continuously answer the questions that it has. So the way that the website works to get your certification is that you have several steps that you have to answer. And there are times, since it's done asynchronously, there are times that you would like to cram things and do it in one bulk. But the website itself doesn't really allow it, since it has some type of cooldown feature. So you need to wait before you can proceed to another question, which was why for me it was not that productive in my end, since I couldn't finish it during the time that I had allotted it.
Okay, so your objective is to finish that certification in one sitting, but unfortunately, your website was not able to help you achieve that goal. Is that right?
Yes po.
Okay. How about some other students who would like to share their experience? Thank you, Joshel. Okay, just a follow-up question, Joshel. So how did you feel with that experience of not attaining your goal with that website?
For me as a user, I kind of felt frustrated since I was unable to finish what I had intended to do with the time that I had. Although not exactly in one sitting naman yung goal ko, pero I was trying to maximize the time that I had with the amount of tasks that I was trying to get done. And since I was unable to do so due to the cooldown time or the thing that was restricting me to continuously answer it, I felt frustrated because, yes, I was unable to finish it.
Okay, so it seems that Miss Joshel really had an annoying experience and that she felt some inefficiencies associated with the product that she has used or with the website that she has used. And basically, that sharing of experience encapsulates or perfectly illustrates what we mean by user experience. So user experience presents the overall impression a user derives during an interaction with a product or a system. And the quality of that user experience depends primarily on several dimensions. However, for this lecture, we will just be focusing on the usability aspect as it is the foundation of good design. And though we would not be discussing accessibility, it is worth noting that accessibility is a close cousin of usability as it is a dimension of user experience associated with usability given temporary, situational, or permanent impairments. So, how do we define usability? So, the International Organization for Standardization defines usability as the extent to which a system, product, or service can be used by specified users to achieve specified goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in a specified context of use. So, as indicated in this definition, it is anchored on three basic elements of effectiveness, focusing on the accuracy and completion of the user goals. We also have your efficiency, which focuses on the minimal effort as well as cognitive resources. And lastly, we have satisfaction, which deals with the comfort and acceptability of the work system to its users and other people affected by its use. So, to give an example, so just imagine that you are booking a flight for a vacation and the booking site is considered to be usable if you can fill out the form quickly, correctly, and without difficulty. And if the experience is pleasant enough, you'd be willing to use it again on your next booking. Okay? So, to understand usability better, let us break it down into its key dimensions, of which some are repeated elements. So, first, we have the ease of learning or learnability, which refers to how easy it is for users to accomplish basic tasks the first time they encounter the design. Okay, so maybe there are our tablets that we are using right now. It's so usable because even toddlers and even babies can really use them accurately and fastly, and they can really learn fast on how to use those tablets. We also have efficiency, which refers to how fast a user can accomplish the task given that an experienced user has learned to use the system. We also have memorability, which refers to how easily can users reestablish proficiency after a period of not using that system. So this is more applicable for systems that have the non-usual users, or those who just use it, for example, for every semester. So our system of registration, we just use them once or twice in a semester. So the measure of how usable it is depends on how easy it is for us to reestablish the proficiency on the use of that website. And then we also have errors, which refers to the frequency by which user make errors and how serious those errors are, and how users recover from those errors. And lastly, again, we have the satisfaction, which refers to the pleasantness of the experience derived from the use of that particular product. Nonetheless, all of these usability dimensions would be futile if usefulness would not be achieved. Okay, so basically, usefulness is the degree to which a product enables a user to achieve goals and the customers or users willingness to use the product. This is basically established by our marketing or our product development team, because they need to really reach out to the customers, to the target users, to identify what are their needs to perform a particular task. So, which is, again, basically one of the reasons why human factors and ergonomics is existing. Okay, so when those dimensions that we have cited are not met, users often encounter problems. And common usability issues arise from confusing design, like confusion caused by color, placement, or layout of page. So you can cite, or you can tell me if my presentation is problematic, if there would be confusion caused by the colors or the layouts that I have used for my presentation. It can also be caused by missing or incomplete information, like some wordy or complex sentences, as well as the use of jargon. And problems could also arise from unclear labeling. So the user does not know what will happen if she happens to click a link or a button. And another usability problem refers to the problematic functionality. So that is, the website or the app does not function as the user expects. And lastly, issues related to the difficulty of finding or navigating to the desired location. So please take note that even if these common usability problems are pertaining to software, websites, or apps, these are also common usability problems that we encounter with physical products or everyday products like remote controls, cars, and some other physical products. So basically, usability is not just or should not just be established or achieved with software, but they should also be developed in our physical products. Again, hardware and software. Then again, if these are usability problems and usability only arises, or we only know that there are usability problems if usability itself is not existent in a product. So given that, how do we improve usability? So this would now lead us to the ways and means by which we can improve usability And we have usability testing, which involves representative users as participants. And we also have usability heuristics review, which evaluates products based on expert recommendations. So let us now look closely at usability testing. So maybe we can adopt whatever learnings we can gain from here in our projects or in our future careers as product developers and some other career related, for example, to the product development. So what is usability testing? So it is a technique used to evaluate a product by testing it to representative users. And it usually is facilitated by a moderator. And again, it is usually conducted in the different stages of the product development. So for example, during the initial stage of the product development, at the middle, and even before the official launch of a product. So the goals of usability testing include uncovering problems in the design, learning about user behaviors and preferences, as well as discovering opportunities to improve the design. And this is basically the reason why there are some successful startups or successful business ventures, because they do usability testing iteratively, because again, as the concept of continuous improvement, they are really trying to discover opportunities on how they would be able to improve the services and the products that they are offering to their customers. So the testing setup usually depends on the type of data. On one hand, if we are interested in qualitative data, then we use the formative testing. But if we are interested in quantitative data, we are going to conduct what we call as summative testing. So the formative testing is a diagnostic type of data which extracts qualitative data to discover, prioritize, and resolve usability problems. Nevertheless, I hope that you would not have this incorrect notion that with formative, only qualitative information would be gained from your usability testing setup. You can also have some quantifiable data or quantities that can be derived, so such as the frequency and severity of errors during normal usage of a product. So which users encountered which problems, time to complete tasks, successful task completion, among others. And because it is diagnostic, it involves extensive interaction between the moderator and the participant. So therefore, it must the moderator must be emphatic. Okay, so the moderator must be able to relate and communicate well with the participants. So on the other hand, we have the summative type of usability test, which has metrics as the output. So this can be conducted for benchmarking purposes. That is, we are going to compare, for example, our system to a set of benchmark goals, which are specified early in your usability testing journey. On the other hand, we have comparative testing or comparative analysis, wherein we compare, for example, a current version of a product with a prior version of a product to check whether if there really is an improvement with our current version, or we are comparing competing products. Next, how do we conduct usability test? It can be conducted in person, remotely, or using a guerrilla system. So each of these methods have their own pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages. For example, in the in-person testing methodology, you can actually see if the participants are agitated or if they are anxious, if they are happy with the product that you are offering while they are using it. But then again, it requires an emphatic moderator to note the testers or the participants' experiences. And it requires extensive training. And it even requires the moderator to learn meditation. So he or she would not be affected by the emotions or the expressions being given provided by the participants. The in-person testing method has some disadvantages in the sense that experiments can only be done with a small sample size. But this can be remedied if we have what we call as the remote testing method. That is, we can do the usability testing online, moderated or unmoderated, and we can catch users in their own environments that can reveal more accurate field insights. However, the downside of this remote testing method is the fact that while doing the task using, for example, a particular product, the participant may be interrupted because of uncontrollable situations or uncontrollable variables in their immediate environment. Okay? So next, we also have your guerrilla testing, wherein you are going to test your design informally on passersby or colleagues, but there is the risk of gathering or obtaining inaccurate data. Because, again, you need to clearly explain also to your participants the purpose for your study. Okay? So, how do we conduct a usability study? It's really a very tedious process and it really entails a lot of planning because there are a lot of activities that you need to prepare for, like setting up the test environment, finding and selecting the participants, preparing the test materials and the equipment that you would be using, conducting the test sessions, which could take a long time, analyzing the data and observations, and reporting the findings and recommendations. However, for today, in the interest of time, we are just going to focus on the first step, which is the development of the test plan. Basically, because it functions as a blueprint for your usability testing journey, and it encompasses everything and the rest of the steps in our usability testing process. Okay. So again, what is a test plan? So it's a living document, meaning when we say living document, it can be revised from time to time as more information comes at hand. And it provides details about your usability test, including the how, the when, the where, the who, the why, and what. And it contains information such as the purpose, goals, and objectives of the test, the research questions, the participant characteristics, the methods, basically everything that is in our procedure. Okay? And please take note to keep the end user in mind as you develop the test plan. If you are very close to the project, you are heavily invested into the project, there is a tendency to forget that you are not testing the product. but it would seem like no, this product should work well. Okay, so that should not be the case. So we should refrain from thinking about that, because you need to test the relationship of your product with the human being with certain specific characteristics, because they would be the ones using your product. Okay. So the first step in developing the test plan is specifying the goals and objectives for your study, as well as developing the research questions that you want answered by your usability test. So basically, your goals and objectives must be stated completely and clearly, while your research questions, they must be very specific as to what you want, as to what information you want to be addressed by your usability testing. Okay, it must be very specific. Why? Because these research questions will help you, or they will guide you in designing the test and identifying the appropriate measures, or even determining the appropriate end users for your usability test procedure. And even the design of the data collection form, that would be dependent on the research question. But then again, your research question as well as the design of all the materials that you would be using are interdependent. If there is a change in your research question, you should also be changing the several aspects of your testing methodology. And if there is also a change in your testing methodology, there might be a need to change also, or at least have minimal modifications in your research questions. So the test plan also specifies the participant characteristics. So you need to identify who are your users, what do they do, what are the tasks that they do, what are their behaviors, what are their experiences, what are their background. Okay? So in the test plan, you should be able to provide a user profile. So again, the user profile specifies who is your user. So who would be using the product that you are developing. So a fundamental consideration for participant selection is identifying the correct number of participants. So we are so used to having at least 30 participants for our experimental designs. But the general rule in usability testing is that you cannot have too many participants, but you cannot have less number of participants. So to ensure statistical validity, we can use a minimum of 10 to 12 participants per condition. However, for informal usability tests, we can use 4 to 5 participants per condition. So that would be enough. But then again, if you have the time and the resources to employ those 10 to 12 participants per condition, then it would help because it would provide you with more accurate results. Another basic consideration would be representativeness and randomness. That is, if you intend to draw conclusions about the different types of users, you should plan on having all groups represented in your sample so that you can make good generalization of the potential users or potential users of your product. So how it would affect the potential users of your product. Okay, so next is the detailed description of how you are going to carry out the research with the participants and how the test session will unfold. Essentially, it contains the synopsis of the design and it details the steps from the time the participants arrive until the time they leave in enough detail so that someone observing the test will know roughly what to expect. So basically, it's tantamount to your experimental protocol. So you should also be able to provide that even at the preparation stage or in the development of the test plan. So in the methods, you must also be able to include the test designs, whether you are going to carry out a between subjects or a within subjects design, or extend it to a factorial experiment considering multiple user groups or multiple product versions. Okay, so basically we are just following the scientific method here or the experimental design methods in the methods section of your test plan. Okay, so this is an example of a method section of the test plan for an experiment, and like any experimental protocol, it includes the time associated with the activities that you would be doing. So I hope you would include those things in your test plan. Next, so I think this is one of the most important parts of your test plan. That would be the task list. So the task list comprises those tasks that the participants will perform during the test. And the list should consist of tasks that will ordinarily be performed during the course of using the product, documentation, and so on. But take note, the task that you develop for the test should reflect the relationship of the product and the end user. The test should expose the points at which the product becomes a hindrance rather than a help for performing a task. So, meaning, the task should be the task that you should be selecting or identifying for the test should be reflective of what is normally being done during the course of the day while the users are performing their task. Okay? So the next question would be, what task do you need to include? There are a lot of divide them into a lot of subtasks. But what task do you need to include? You need to prioritize. Okay? And prioritization, it can go by frequency. So which are the tasks that are being most frequently conducted on a daily basis by our target users or by our participants? It can also be prioritized according to criticality. So which among those tasks would have serious consequences if they are not completely done or if there are errors in the execution? So we also have prioritization based on the vulnerability. So those tasks which are hard to perform or have design flaws, or by readiness. This is particularly important for new products that we are about to launch. So there are some beta versions of our software, for example, but there are some instances that the function for a particular task is not available yet. Okay, but we can make the decision whether to test those functions that are ready to be tested or just forgo testing at all. But then again, please take note that it is always better to test something than nothing because it might take a long time before everything is ready. Okay, so we can do the testing on a step-by-step, or again, because usability testing is an iterative process, we can section our or partition or have a separate set of tests for the different parts that are ready. Okay, so the next section describes the test environment, the equipment, as well as the logistics associated with the conduct of the experiment or the usability testing. So again, you should be ready with the materials, identify the equipment. So whether you would be using an external monitor, a laptop, a video, or an eye tracker to conduct your usability testing. So please take note of those. And please take note also that whatever the typical operating environment is, try your best to simulate the actual conditions. Okay? So this is just a sample statement of a test environment for a test plan. Okay. So since usability tests almost always involves a moderator or a facilitator, you should be able to explain what the moderator will do. Because we do not want the moderator to have some unplanned actions which could have an effect on how the participant executes the task, which could affect the results of our usability testing. Another reason why we need to explain what the moderator will do is because we want the moderator, for example, to observe or to explain to some observers who might be present during the testing phase, to explain the process because they might be unfamiliar with the process. Okay, second to the last, a data section must also be provided, and it must show or present an overview of the types of metrics that you will collect, both performance and preference data. So basically, when we talk about performance data, they are metrics of participant behavior like the errors of omission and commission, the number of tasks completed, and the time to perform a task. On the other hand, we have preference data, which are measures of participant opinion or thought process, like participant rankings, answers to questions, and even the use of standard questionnaires like the system usability scale. We can also indicate if we are going to make use of those standard set of questionnaires. So finally, we have a summary of the main sections of the test reports and how we are going to communicate them with our, for example, with our stakeholder or with our product development team. So again, we have an example here of report contents. And as we can see here, it's not just the results that will be provided to the stakeholder or to the customer, but you must, if you are conducting the usability testing, you must also be able to discuss the implications of the results as well as provide recommendations on how to improve the product that you have tested or evaluated. Okay, so are you still with me, guys? Okay, so I hope you had a complete appreciation of the usability testing procedure. But now, let us look at a concrete example at how usability testing methodology was applied in a product. And this product is specifically a COVID test kit. Oh, why are we discussing that? COVID is already gone. But then again, we do not know if there would ever be another pandemic. But in case we wanted to be ready, and the correct use of test kits would be crucial for effective pandemic control. So thus, we need to evaluate the usability of our home test kits because small usability issues can scale to significant public health consequences. So basically, that's the rationale behind the usability testing of the COVID-19 test kits as justified and as explained by the proponents of this study. Okay, so again, I am going to share with you an article about the use of usability testing or the conduct of usability testing in healthcare. So the article is entitled "A Comprehensive Mixed Methods Usability Evaluation of COVID-19 Home Test Kits, Focusing on Effectiveness, Efficiency, and Satisfaction." So this is a very recent article. Okay, so the objectives of the study were presented. Okay, and again, I would like to reiterate that this study is a combination of different methods. So it consists of the use analysis, the user experience survey, as well as the usability testing. So the user experience survey was conducted to verify if the information as well as the metrics that they would be getting from usability testing also applies to a large part of the population. So different measures of effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction were also identified by the team, and they also have determined the best home test kit to be used for the experiment. And they justified that this particular brand is the most widely used brand based on their initial survey. And it is the most distributed test kit during the pandemic in South Korea. Okay, so the study was conducted in simulated real-world scenarios. They asked the participants or they instructed the participants to imagine that they are experiencing mild COVID symptoms and they needed to test themselves. So basically, there are 80 participants coming from different age groups, genders, and prior experience with the test kits. So again, they have followed the representation and randomness. Okay, and randomness in the sense that those 80 participants were assigned at different usability test settings. So we have the private place, like a room, or inside a car, a public toilet, or a park bench. So those are the actual real-world scenarios or simulated real-world scenarios considered for this study. So again, 80 individuals participated in the study and they were divided into the 4 test settings. Though trained observers, they systematically recorded the data as observed from the participants. And at the end of the 40-minute session, participants completed a post-test questionnaire, including the system usability scale to measure the overall usability, the ease of use for each task, and the satisfaction with the information for users, the leaflet containing the instructions. And then it was followed also by a semi-structured interview eliciting participants' insights like experiences, difficulties encountered, as well as suggestions for improving the kit design. So of course, prior to the usability testing, task analysis was conducted to identify the main task. So in this case, opening the box, repairing before use, as well as the subtask, along with potential use errors and associated consequences or hazardous scenarios. So the results of this task analysis served as an input or as a guide in identifying the frequency of error occurrences during the testing phase. And as we can see from this table, it shows the different subtasks as well as the frequencies of task failure, use errors, close calls, use difficulty. And they have found that those 80 participants committed 551 total task failures and 612 use errors. So, what then is the reason why they are experiencing those errors? So again, as you can see from our table, this highlighted cells would provide the highest number of error occurrences. So the results of their analysis showed that the testing environment as well as the age are the significant factors affecting usability. So basically, the testing environment, the park bench provides them with the highest error rate. Why? Because this is what we call as the situational disability or impairment, because in a park they don't have any stable table or stable place where they can correctly do the testing procedure. Okay, so which might serve as an input to the product developers of this test kit. So how would you design this particular product? How would you improve this particular design, in the sense that even if there is no stable table or chair, the users would still correctly use the test kit. So again, with age, of course, it's primarily involved, dexterity as the issue that is primarily involved here. So they also provided performance data by test settings as well as age group. And they also provided the preference data, the subjective assessment data by test setting and age group. They also highlighted the gaps found from the results of the study, and they provided the highlight, and again, their findings highlight the gap between perceived and actual usability, demonstrating how design elements influence diagnostic accuracy and pandemic control efficacy. Okay, so that concludes our discussion for usability testing. And I hope that I have provided you with some clear guidelines along with a concrete example of how usability testing can be applied. But we're not yet finished. We will now proceed to another framework or another method by which we can improve the usability of our product. And that is through what we call as usability heuristics. So we are going to follow Jacob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics, but please bear in mind that they are just broad rules of thumb and not specific usability guidelines. Okay, so if you will ask me who Jacob Nielsen is, so he is a practitioner of usability analysis, and he even is a consultant or has a consultancy firm for usability testing and usability heuristics. Okay? So this is an overview of the usability heuristics that we will be discussing, but we are going to look into each of them in more detail. And I hope that while I am presenting each of these usability heuristics, you would remember some of the products or interfaces that can be improved with the use of these heuristics. Okay, so let's start with the first heuristic, which deals with the visibility of system status. So this heuristic indicates that the design should always keep users informed about what is going on through appropriate feedback within a reasonable amount of time. And a physical example of this would be the "you are here" indicators on the mall maps to show you where you currently are and to help you understand where to go if you are going to look for a restaurant or a shop. Okay, so basically, with this heuristic, it promotes communication and transparency to the users of your system. So for website and apps, we can also see this visibility of a system, or there are also apps that also followed the guidelines as provided by this visibility of system status, like the changing of the color and adding of the check mark to buttons on a selection screen, as well as the progress indicators to reassure the user that the system is still working even if the wait is long. The second usability heuristic suggests a matching between the system and the real world. That is, the design should speak the user's language by using words, phrases, and concepts that are familiar to the user rather than internal jargon. So it's a must that we follow real world convention so that it can be readily perceived and it can appear in a natural and logical order. So one physical example would be our stove top controls. They should naturally map with the layout of the heating elements. And another example would be the volume buttons on our cell phones. They are an example of natural mapping because the top button increases the volume and the bottom button decreases the volume. So basically, natural mapping ensures that the positions or the actions that we are doing corresponds to the outcome that we are expecting. Okay, so the third heuristic refers to user control and freedom, and it recommends a clearly marked emergency exit to leave the unwanted action of our user without having to go through an extended process. Okay, so if our physical spaces have quick emergency exits, our digital spaces should also have those quick emergency exits. So as an example, our shopping apps or our e-commerce sites, we can undo adding an item to the basket whenever we are checking out by selecting the remove button, or in most cases, we have the delete or X button. The fourth heuristic refers to consistency and standards. That is, we must follow platform and industry conventions so users would not have to wonder whether different words, situations, or actions mean the same thing. Okay? So an example of which would be our check-in counter locations. They are usually situated at the front of hotels, so they would they would be the first one to meet the guest, and this consistency meets customer expectations. So just imagine if the customer would need to go a lot of turns in the hotel before finding the check-in, then that would really affect the user experience or the cost of the customer experience. So again, in digital spaces, Google's previous version of the mail, calendar, and drive icons display what we call as internal consistency because they make use of consistent visual style, and in the recent updates they use the same colors across several applications, so the same colors of all this mail, calendar, and drive across several applications. So basically, Google is exhibiting good icon usability. So next would be external consistency, meaning across websites and apps, layout consistency must be followed. In this example of a health appointment check-in, what happens is that there is layout inconsistency in the sense that the finish later buttons changes location. And because of this lack of consistency in the location of the button, the user might make a mistake in accidentally hitting the finish later button instead of submitting the form and be confused whether they're not actually checked in or if they are checked in for their appointments. Okay, so I think it has been a standard that the back button is always on the left and the finish button is always on the right. Okay, or the submit button. So the fifth heuristic involves error prevention. That is, the best designs must be carefully designed to prevent problems from occurring in the first place. Like this guardrails on curvy mountain roads, preventing drivers from falling off the cliffs. So we can also find that in our digital spaces, like the search suggestions that we can find in our search engines as well as in our shopping apps. So which provides clickable search suggestions to enable the users to type less for making fewer slips or mistakes. Okay, so we're almost halfway. We also have the sixth heuristic with the goal of minimizing the user's memory load by prioritizing recognition over recall. Okay, so we must avoid making users remember information and as much as possible provide some hints to our users. In the digital space, this Volvo mobile app failed these heuristics because their app contains icons that do not promote recognition. So for me, I don't know what this means, and everything. So it might be useful to have a label next to some of these icons, especially for those who would be using the app for the first time. The seventh is all about flexibility and efficiency of use, which could be achieved with the use of shortcuts to speed up the interaction for the expert user. Of course, our users may be novices or experts, but then again, if it's the same method that the experts would be using, similar to what the novices would be using, they might be bored and their user experience would be reduced. Okay, so Photoshop is able to do that by showing unobtrusive messages to indicate how to access keyboard shortcuts for expert users of Photoshop. Okay, so next we have the eighth heuristic, which promotes aesthetics and minimalist design. That is, interfaces should not contain information that is irrelevant or rarely needed, because every extra unit of information competes with the relevant units of information. So basically what happens is that your increasing the mental workload associated with the use of a product. So for physical products, you might have some teapots in your homes, which have excessive decorative elements, but they do not add up to the functionality, or they make it hard to use the product entirely, and that can interfere with usability. So in the digital space, if you are familiar with the 16personalities.com website, it is complying with this heuristic in the sense that it features sufficient information and only sufficient information. However, it has non-minimalist visual style in the sense that their website is highly textured and intricate visual elements, and fully utilized pages with little white space are evident. So second to the last, the ninth heuristics would be to help systems must help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. So error messages should be expressed in plain language. So no error codes to precisely indicate the problem and constructively suggest a solution. For instance, in our road networks, the use of the wrong way signs on the road remind the drivers that they are heading in the wrong direction, and it is asking them to stop. Again, in the digital space, our shopping apps, they provide clear feedback to the users. So by informing users of potential savings when we purchase or our purchase increases. And last, even though it's a must that the system doesn't need any additional explanation, it may be necessary to provide documentation to help users understand how to complete their task. And such is the case for information kiosks at airports to help the passengers on the airport. And in this case, Dyson failed in this heuristic because it failed to provide text instructions in addition to video tutorials. Okay, so I think that concludes our lecture for today. But I just want to check if you have gained an appreciation or understanding of these different usability heuristics. So basically, I will show some illustrations or photos of user interfaces, and your task is to identify which usability heuristic is illustrated by those. So I hope that everyone will participate so you can use the chat box for your answers. Okay, and I hope someone here will explain why they think it follows that particular usability heuristic. Okay? Is everyone ready? I hope everyone is ready. Okay? Are we good? Okay, so let us start. Okay? So what usability heuristic is exemplified in this example? Can I see your answer from the chat? Hello, anyone? So, would anyone like to erase their answers? Show, hello? Who would like to share their answer? What type of heuristic is exemplified in this particular example or illustration of an app? Can you see my screen? Hmm. Hello? Am I alone? Anyone from the group, please? Okay, so I'm seeing answers recognition over recall. Do you agree? Do everyone agree? Does everyone agree with this? So actually, this is an example of the heuristic error prevention because we are making use of defaults. Okay? So how about this one? What type of heuristic can we apply or can we see here that is successfully applied? Okay, so that is the visibility of system status because it provides information to the shopper of how much he or she needs to spend to avail of the free delivery. So this one. Next, how about this one? You can always see this whenever you are creating passwords for your accounts. So what type of heuristic is being followed by this? Okay, so that would be helping users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors, because as you are typing, you are already provided with feedback on how to correct your password. Okay? And last one. Okay, so how about this last one? Hmm? Help and documentation? No? So any other answers? Recognition rather than recall? No? Consistency? Aesthetic? No? Okay. So the correct answer for this would be matching between the system and the real world, because there are a lot of jargons here, and they could have done better by using a language that is familiar to the users. Okay? So thank you very much for those who have participated. That concludes our lecture for today. So thank you very much, and I hope that you have learned something from me, useful and something useful for today. And just for you to have some, if you want to read deeper or more about the topic, the following are the references that I have used. So that would be all. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Clarissa, for that insightful and inspiring presentation. Your session offered a compelling exploration of usability, heuristic, and their real-world application, especially of the context of digital system. The clarity of your examples and the depth of your analysis truly captivate us and spark a new perspective. We truly appreciate your time and expertise. Now we'll open the floor of question and answer session. Please type your question in the Zoom chat box, and I'll be happy to read them out for our speakers. And alternatively, you may also raise your hand and open your audio to ask your question directly. Before we begin to the Q&A session, may I kindly ask Dr. Clarissa, would you prefer to collect several questions first and respond them together, or would you like to answer each question as it comes?
Okay, maybe we will just collect questions first, so I can filter them whether they are the same questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Seems like there are no questions. I hope that I was able to really provide a clear lecture for the usability. And I really hope that you would use it in your projects and in your future endeavors.
Okay, while we wait for question to come in, may I ask something first, doctors? Uh, to be honest, I've only recently come across Jacob Nielsen usability heuristic, and I find the concept quite intriguing. And I'm curious to all 10 heuristic need to implement in every system, or can designers selectively apply only a few based on context? Maybe it's one question for me.
So the developers can actually apply just select or a few of those 10 heuristics as their website requires. Okay, because it might also be costly on their part. For example, to provide a lot of help and documentation, or to really provide some exits or something like that. So it really depends on the needs of the website developers, as that were derived also from the needs of their customers. But for actually for digital spaces, it's really a great help if those usability heuristics would be applied, because really it increases the user experience. So yeah, maybe with the sharing of experience by Miss Joshel, if the developer of that particular website was able to include this usability heuristics, that could have been less frustrating for Miss Joshel.
Okay, thank you, doctors.
Thank you for your question.
Okay, it seems that everyone has understanding today materials well, as we haven't received any question so far.
I think there is a question here. May I ask if there is a way to measure the usability of a system? Basically, it's like a question of how do you put an elephant inside inside a refrigerator? So you need to divide the system into its simplest elements, and then check the usability or evaluate the usability of those elements, and then combine all of those to check or measure the usability of the whole system. So I think that would be the best answer for that. Okay, questions are now coming in. Okay, so what are the possible usability testing methodology that we can explore for testing actual products? I am only familiar with usability testing for websites, apps such as SUM and SUS. Okay, so basically the SUM and SUM, it's a quantitative methodology, and the SUS is a questionnaire that is used to evaluate the overall usability of a product or a system. But with the most recent advances in technology, we can also use your eye tracker for usability studies, because we can see whether the fixations entail difficulties on the part of the user in using a particular interface in completing that task. And we are so lucky actually that we would be introduced, and ITS would be demonstrating to us the use of the eye tracker in the next sessions in November 28th. Okay, so I think that is just one. We also have what we call as the card sorting methodology, wherein during the initial product development, we can have low fidelity mock-ups of our developed in systems, or we can make use of wireframes, and then we ask our users to evaluate the would-be design of our products. So I guess those are some of the testing, usability testing methodologies that I am familiar with. So in usability testing, we might get conflicting feedback from different participants. So as a designer, how do we decide when to follow the user's direct request versus when to interpret the underlying problem they are having? Okay, so that's a very good question. Thank you for that question. Usually, you are not going to answer everything or every request of the user. And in a summative testing type of usability, what you do is you just set a certain standard. For example, if 80% of my participants, regardless of their background, regardless of their experiences, would be able to complete this particular task with our system, then our product is usable. Okay, so we really cannot satisfy everyone, but at least because some products are marketed on niche set of users, but some products are marketed over a wide range of users. We just set a particular standard that we meet. So I think that would be the answer for the question, and I hope I was able to answer your question.
Okay, doctor, maybe is the last question in today's session. Before we officially close, maybe let's briefly summarize what we learned from Dr. Clarissa's session today. First, we explain that usability means understanding its theory and practice, and how it relates to the overall user experience. Then we organize usability testing methodology, learning the techniques and procedures used to conduct effective usability testing. And finally, we evaluate product or system design using Jacob Nielsen 10 usability heuristic, with principles that guide how we can assess and improve user interface design. These three objectives help us build a strong foundation for evaluating and designing system to prioritize the human experience, which is that heart of cognitive ergonomics and human factors. As we come to the end today's connecting class, we would like to sincerely thanks to Dr. Clarissa for sharing her time, knowledge, and valuable experience with us. We also extend appreciation to Mr. Retno, Ms. Ratnasari Dewi, and Dr. Josefa for their support and guidance through the collaboration. And of course, thank you for all participants, especially students from the Ergonomics and Work System Design Laboratory for actively joining and contributing to the for today's session. Let's continue to apply principle we've learned today to create safer, smarter, and more user-centered system. Thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful afternoon and see you on our next session. Thank you, Dr. Clarissa.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
and see you on November
Yeah,
28th.
truly.
Thank you, Dr. Clarissa, Dr.
Thank you,
Josefa,
Professor
yeah,
Retno.
Elizabeth, Dr. Elizabeth. Bye-bye.
Bye.